welcome back to Best Kept Secrets. I'm your host, Lele Pons, and today we have a special episode for you all about one of the most taboo subjects there is, death. I mean, in some ways, it's strange that death is such a hard thing to talk about because the one thing we know for sure is that one day it will happen to everybody. And I think that's what makes people so uncomfortable. I read the other day that 1 in 5 Americans have lost someone during this pandemic. But even so, I don't think we're very good at talking about death in America. Or anywhere else, to be honest. Mourning a loss and feeling sad are absolutely normal, natural feelings to have. But there are cultures all over the world who have a special day to remember the dead, pay respects, and celebrate their lives. For example, in Mexico, there is El Día de los Muertos, which means it's connecting your ancestors and in like an annual tradition. The multi-day holiday involves family and friends gathering to pray for and to remember friends and family members who have died. It is commonly portrayed as a day of celebration rather than a day of mourning. For example, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Coco, but that's basically what it's about that. And it's super cute, and then it gives life after death, which is something I really appreciate. If you haven't seen the movie Coco, I definitely recommend it. It's such a sweet movie, and it's a great example of how death and remembering the dead doesn't always need to be a sad thing.
The following content contains adult subject matter, including sensitive material, and is intended for adult consumption only. It may not be suitable for all audiences. Therefore, discretion is advised. Lele Pons is not a trained expert, but is using her personal experiences and platform to create a space for sensitive discussions.
Another example is a festival Japanese Buddhist celebrate called Obon. It is traditionally believed that during this time, the souls of the dead revisit the living. The festival is defined by dancing, family reunions, but most especially light. Lanterns are hung outside the doors, floating candles are placed in the water, bonfires are set, which are set to guide the dead back home. All that being said, death is definitely one of the hardest things to talk about to children. And I remember the first time I found out about death, I was like 5 years old, and my grandma's mom died, and she was alone because she was like babysitting me, and she was crying, and there was nothing else. I mean, I saw the conversation she had with on the phone, and then I asked her what happened, and she explained to me what happened to her mom and what happens when people get older and what's going to happen to me. So that was the first time I talked about death it was with my grandma when I was 5 years old. But in conclusion, why I want to talk about this is because later on we're going to be talking to Margaret about the awkward situation she found herself in after her grandmother died. But before that, we're going to talk to our first caller, Mark, who is faced with a difficult situation after the death of his 9-year-old son's hamster. Let's give him a call. Hi, Mark.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm great, Mark. I want to know, what is your best kept secret?
So I have a sticky situation where my son, he's got a little behavioral disorder. Oh. So a couple years ago, got him this hamster to kind of help him with his personality disorder, kind of like emotional support animal, right?
I have that, so I understand.
Oh, yeah. So essentially, we got the hamster. Everything was great. Then the pandemic hit, and everybody has kind of just been having a really tough year. And so my son has really grown attached to the hamster. And the other day, I'm cleaning the cage like I normally do, and I realized that the hamster had passed away, which is, kind of natural, but, he's just been so attached to the hamster. His name's Magic. And so I kind of took the hamster and I, disposed of it, but I went to the pet store that we got him at, and I actually got one that looked pretty much identical to him, and I just replaced him.
Oh, and how old is your son?
He just turned 9 in June.
He hasn't noticed?
No. So the great thing is that it looks pretty much exactly the same as Magic. The only problem is my son, at first, things were totally fine. Didn't even notice. I was stressing out because I was like, oh man, he's totally going to notice because, he's old enough to kind of notice those things. But he was just so aloof and, I think just so busy with the distance learning, with school that he didn't even notice. But then the other day he happens to go, hey, Dad, why does Magic have a freckle on his foot?
Oh,
And
wow.
I looked at the hamster and I realized, oh yeah, wow, it was like definitely a big discoloration from, original magic.
And he
So
noticed.
yeah, so I don't want to tell him what happened, but at the same time, I'm kind of starting to feel bad because he's also noticed that the hamster is not exactly as friendly as Magic was. Like Magic, would just play in his hands. He would totally be fine. But this one actually will like bite him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he's kind of starting to feel a little down because he used to go to Magic and play with him to kind of relieve stress and whatever. And now, even the thing he used to go to is now kind of not as friendly as it used to be. So I'm just a little worried, like what should I be doing? Should I tell him?
I think you should tell him because this hamster did things that for maybe to you wasn't important, but for him it was. Like, for example, maybe the way that the hamster treated him or like it moved or it made him feel. And if this hamster is biting him, like,
yeah,
you have to explain to him that why the hamster is biting you because he's mad at you or something, like,
yeah.
If he's too different, then it will probably hurt him more that you lied about it. So I think that you should tell him the truth. It doesn't, and this is a good opportunity to do it because you're going to have to do it. Have you talked to your son about death before?
Like only to the extent of like, we had a great aunt that passed away because she had complications from COVID. And so, but he had only maybe met her when he was, I think, 5 years old. So, he wasn't too aware of things at the time. And, we just kind of say like, oh, COVID's bad and we got to wear our mask and that sort of stuff. But we haven't talked about death. So, do you think like maybe just correlating this to COVID might be a good way to do it? Or because he knows that people have been dying from this virus, because obviously we've had to take all these precautions. But what do you think?
I mean, death is hard and makes people sad, and it's something you can't control. And I think that he can't be mad at you with that. And I just want you to tell him like, listen, I did this because I didn't want to hurt you, but I don't want to lie to you anymore. So what we can do is like, you can tell him, listen, like your hamster like passed away, but it's okay. Tell him, that there's a heaven for hamsters, that he's looking down on you and he has a girlfriend up there in Hamster Heaven. And then we can now go find another animal, any animal that you want. It doesn't matter, like, doesn't mean that he doesn't have to have an animal anymore. Be like, we can have this and two more hamsters or something like that now. Make it understandable for him.
Yeah. So get, second Magic a girlfriend is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Be like, let's get two more hamsters or something, or let's get another type of animal if you want. Do you guys have a dog?
No, so that was the reason we got a hamster. Just super simple to take care of. We considered a dog here when the pandemic hit, but then I decided I was like, it's gonna be too much of a hassle.
I think a dog is amazing. A puppy, a really, really small puppy. Yeah, it changed my life having a dog when I got my dog. It's amazing. So like upgrade? Yes.
Because, I think, so we got Magic when he was 6. So he's had him for 3 years. So, maybe that's a good way to introduce it and say, sometimes animals pass on and this is just a fact of life. Like humans will do it. You will do it. I will do it, and we're just going to enjoy life while we're here. But in the meantime, maybe get a puppy.
Yeah, let's do something. Let's get a puppy. Let's give you one another hamster. Yeah. And he's going to be excited for that, Let's go tomorrow. Be like, let's go right away.
Right. And that would give him responsibility too.
But tell him, he's in Hamster Heaven. Like he passed on, but he's doing great as well. Let's not have like, death be something negative. Let's make it something positive.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
You're going to have this conversation about death at some point. And I think it's important to say that you will always love Magic, but you have room in your heart to love somebody else,
Sounds good.
What does your wife say? What does she think you should do?
She was pretty much hands off. She was like, well, guess what? You found it. You get to tell him, because I was the one that introduced the hamster. She doesn't like little rodent things. She would actually rather have a dog. So I think she would be all for the dog issue. I was really the one against having a dog because I was just like, I'm going to be the one taking care of it. But he is older now, so I could see him in that responsibility. But I know she would be like, oh, okay, that's your decision. You take care of the dog if he doesn't.
And on the bright side, you didn't kill him, so you don't have to explain that part. It was natural.
I just thought of this, but so the way I disposed of him was by flushing it down the toilet. So would I have to should I be telling him the truth about that?
You don't have to tell him that part. You could just tell him, listen, I buried him, make a like a burial thing. I'd be like, I buried him down the ground, so he's always going to be here.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
But he's always here.
Yeah.
You can come and visit
And
him.
he's there.
Yep. Yep. Well, thank you so much for calling, and I hope I helped and that everything is resolved. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. He's going to understand. If not now, definitely, eventually, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the help.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Strangely enough, I don't remember the first time I had the death talk. He's eventually either going to remember it like something funny or forget about this death because, as a kid, a lot of things are happening and you're learning a lot of stuff and you're going to get used to death, to be honest. Like, it's going to happen more than once. And this is a very important moment for him to explain it. What better than a hamster instead of a person? So this is his chance to explain to him the hamster situation and make it a fun way, make it a fun thing, make it a positive thing. Hamster heaven, that's what my parents used to say. There's a heaven for dogs, and I do believe that, and hopefully it's true. So it's better, and even if it's not true, it's good to believe, and I'm gonna believe it even if it's not proven. So, I'm sorry I gave him a lie into a lie, like the thing of like the hamster and making it seem like he didn't flush it down the toilet, but you do not have to say that. It's not worth it. Just explain that he died, and at the end of the day, he did die, and once he died, he's dead, and that hamster is just a body. So don't tell him that part. Thank you, Mark, so much. We're going to keep magic in our hearts during this break. All right, guys, we're back, and we're going to be talking to Margaret right now. Let's give her a call. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Lele. I'm kind of nervous.
Why? You want to tell us your big secret?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you my big secret, but I'm nervous to tell you my big secret. That's why.
It's okay. Honestly, if you killed someone, then wrong show. But honestly, that's like the only thing I would say someone has not said here. So don't worry about it.
No, I haven't murdered anybody. 5 years ago, my grandmother passed away.
Okay.
And I was really close with her. And it was really hard, and her death was really hard. But because I was so close with her, I wanted to pick up her ashes from the funeral home. And so I did. I picked up the ashes, and then I was driving home to my parents' house, but I stopped at this little park where my grandma and I used to spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just take some of her ashes and spread it at the park just to remember her by. And as I was getting out of the car, the urn flipped and fell open.
Oh, no.
And so all of her ashes basically fell into the car and in the parking lot. And I really tried hard to get them back in the urn.
Aww.
But I couldn't. Yeah, and it was like a lot of dirt and gravel, and so it was all mixed up, and it wasn't working. Anyway, so I didn't know what to do.
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. Let's start there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
What did you do when it spilled out? That's horrible. I'm so sorry.
I know. It was awful. It was I was kind of freaking out. So I drove to a hardware store and I got sawdust. And I put the sawdust in the urn.
You didn't pick it up, or it just like flew away with the wind?
Well, I tried to pick up her ashes, but they were just, some of them blew away, and then I wasn't really able to get them back in the urn. There was like a lot of dirt and like gravel, and so it just was kind of impossible. Yeah, so that was kind of a disaster.
I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you.
I've never seen ashes. Do they look like sawdust? Like, what color are they?
They're kind of like gray, gray beige. Pretty fine, but sawdust isn't exactly the same likeness, but I needed to get something in there. So that was like the best thing I could think of, instead of like the gravel and the dirt that was mixed up with the sawdust, and also a lot of it had blown away.
Did you consider telling your family the truth, or did you immediately know that you had to try and cover it up?
I did not. No, I did not tell I didn't even consider telling them the truth. I still haven't told them the truth. So this is like the first time I'm actually talking out loud about it. And I feel terrible about it.
What would your parents say?
I don't think my mom would be amused. She would be pissed. She would be really, really pissed at me. And I think my grandma, though, actually would pat me on the back for thinking on my feet. Like, I don't think she would be offended.
Well, first of all, it was an accident, so I know you feel bad about it, but it was a genuine accident. You didn't want to do it on purpose, okay?
Of course. Yeah, I know. But it's still, like, now it's such a big thing to cover up. Like, the cover-up is almost worse than the accident.
It always is. At the end, it turns out like that.
Yeah. So we just still have her sawdust sitting on the mantle.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, my mom hasn't even really done anything with it, but my mom would be pissed.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a spirit that lives on, not the dust.
Yes.
That was just a body she was in.
Exactly. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Last question that I have would be, if you could talk to your grandma right now, what do you think she would say about the situation?
I think she would, she and I always had a great relationship, and we would joke around a lot. I think she would just, get a kick out of it, that's how she ended up going. And I'm sure she doesn't mind because, like you said, it's like the spirit, not the body.
Yeah. Well, she sounds like a free-spirited.
Yeah.
She sounds free-spirited, so maybe she would prefer, being blown in the wind than trapped.
Yes, I think she would. So I probably did, the right thing by her. I'm not sure what she would say about dealing with my mom or fessing up to my family.
Maybe she'll say, don't tell them.
You don't think I should tell them?
No, maybe she'll say, don't tell them, don't worry about it.
Yeah, she doesn't think it's a big deal. Maybe just keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Continue to do it. Keep it a secret.
I really hope that you can forgive yourself. That's the next step.
Thank you. I just feel bad around my parents when I am not looking at the urn in my parents' house. I actually kind of find it like a joke between me and my grandma. But yeah, I do feel a little bit guilty around my parents.
It's okay. We feel guilty about many things, In this case, what they don't know won't hurt them.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. Hopefully you feel better about the situation.
Thank you. Bye.
I would be traumatized, to be honest. But at the same time, 5 years, I would eventually, understand it's not my fault. It happens. It's a slip up. It's annoying. That's what it is. She's probably not mad at herself. She's probably annoyed that it happened. When something breaks, that's how you feel. It's oh my God, I'm so stupid. But you can't be mad at yourself for the rest of your life about it. It wasn't your fault. I understand she had a close relationship with her grandma, but at the same time, what they won't know won't hurt them. So she's the one suffering here. And I think the grandma's definitely not suffering. She's probably having a blast watching this go on and go on. But I wish her the best. I wish her the best of luck. And I wish that she would just understand that, it's not a big deal at the end of the day. She's a spirit and she's there in the air. I said at the top of the show that death is one of the most difficult subjects for anybody to talk about. So I want to take this moment to thank Mark and Margaret for calling in and sharing their stories with us this week. There's no doubt that Mark is a great dad and he cares a lot for his son. And I completely agree and understand why he replaced the hamster. That would probably have been my first thing to do as well, because for me hamsters all look the same. I don't know, maybe there's something else, but as a kid, if my mom did that, I wouldn't remember. But in some ways, I do think that he missed out an opportunity to actually talk about it with his son, because eventually it's going to happen, and I think this would have been perfect. And the most important thing is that it should actually come naturally. It shouldn't come out of the blue, because this is a very tough subject, and I think this was the easiest explanation. Start by animals and then go to humans. However, the son is not dumb, so he's realizing that the hamster doesn't look and behave like magic. Therefore, Mark has to face with two choices. Either he tells more lies to cover it up, or he's gonna have to open up a conversation about telling, his son about what really happened to Magic. One of the most important things that pets can teach children is about how to deal with death and grief. I also think Mark should be honest about the fact that it's probably, his own uncomfortableness about talking about death that made him try to cover it up in the first place. I mean, parenting is already hard, so imagine talking about that with your child. I don't even want to think about me doing that because it's hard enough. I mean, I can't even think about it because it's really hard. Whether you believe in reincarnation, heaven, or whether you think death is the end, it's something we're all going to experience at one point in our lives, and we all have to come to terms and make peace with it in one way or another. I certainly haven't yet. I don't want to die, but I know it's going to happen, but I just don't like talking about it. Even when parents say oh, one day I'm not going to be here. I was like, don't talk like that. Just don't talk like that. When it happens, and we'll see what happens, It's a very personal thing, but also a universal experience. I know that I believe our loved ones live on throughout, in our memories, and I do believe in reincarnation because I come from a Catholic family, so my love and prayers are out to anyone who is mourning the loss of a loved one right now. I can assure you they are in a better place. That's what I believe. Even though I think honesty is the best policy for Mark, when it comes to Margaret's situation, I'm not very sure if it's a good idea for her to, talk to her parents about what happened. She was obviously upset about losing some of her grandmother's ashes when she stopped in the park, but I like to believe that was her grandmother's way of, escaping into the wind because, nobody wants to be stuck in a room. So I would like that. If I die, throw me into the river or somewhere. I love it. I don't want to be buried in the ground. For Margaret's mom, it sounds like displaying the urn in her home is a way for her to feel closer to her mom. But the truth is that the mom is going to be there no matter what. It doesn't have to be just the ashes right there. I think that Margaret should just keep this a secret because her mom might not understand. It probably is too hard for her to understand right now. I know I've been saying that Mark should come clean, but that's definitely easier said than done. So my question for the week is, should Mark tell his son the truth about Magic the hamster? Yes or no? I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say. I think he should, but let's leave it up to you guys. So let me know by voting in the poll on my Instagram at Lele Pons. That's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay safe, and we'll see you back next week for more Best Kept Secrets.
If you or someone you know are struggling emotionally, text START to 741-741 for a confidential chat anytime.
Bum, bum.
Thanks for listening to Best Kept Secrets with me, Lele Pons, only on Spotify in partnerships with Shot Studios. The Shot Studios original team includes creators John Shahidi and Sam Shahidi, my lovely producer Belinda Mercer, and audio editor Stephen Colon. From Spotify Studios, executive producers Javier Pinol, Liz Gately, Gina Delvac, and Danny Treboj. And a special thanks to Dan Behar, Jessica Molina, Francisco Quijada, and Julio Pabon. I'm Lele. Follow me on Instagram at Lele Pons and check out my exclusive merch at lilshop.com. That is Lil Shop, Lil shop.com. Talk to you next week.